What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another fantasy football video. We've got another mock draft for you today, and before we get into the mock draft and before I talk about Alvin Kamara, which I will be talking about, I want to just go over the different sites you can use to do these mock drafts, because I know ESPN is what a lot of you ultimately end up drafting with, either ESPN or Yahoo or NFL.com, but I don't really recommend mock drafting on those until like a week before your draft, just because, especially right now, they're really off on the ADPs. And I know a lot of you already know these sites, so I'm going to go in pretty quickly. The one you've seen me use a lot is Fantasy Pros. It's really easy. You just go to the NFL tab and you just find the draft simulator, draft wizard. I don't think it matters which one you click. And then you can just change out all of your different settings. 12 team, I think you can go up to like 32 team. I did one last year. You guys have seen me do that before. It's pretty straightforward. Fantasy Football Calculator is another one that you can use. I would say that if like speed is your goal and you have like 10 minutes, you just want to do a draft in 10 minutes, don't use Fantasy Football Calculator. It's faster than ESPN and Yahoo and stuff, but it's still slower than SleeperBot, which I'm going to show you in a second, and Fantasy Pros. But I really like the ADPs, especially in like a month, everything's going to be a lot better. But I really like the ADPs. I think it's really accurate in Fantasy Football Calculator. And they don't have always exactly what you're looking for. But, I mean, they have dynasties. They have dynasty just rookie, 2 quarterback ones. So you just might have to wait a few minutes to get the exact draft you want. You can't, like, create them in there. And then it's SleeperBot, which is what we're going to use today. I know a lot of you probably haven't heard of this one, and I had it until recently. But I think it's really good. And I like the ADPs, especially right now, because I believe they use the past 24 hours, whereas Fantasy Football Calculator use like a much wider range. So if someone gets hurt, they slowly start sipping down, but it's not as quickly as in SleeperBot. They'll be booted right out. So I do like this site so far. I'm going to put myself in a position in this draft where we have to make a choice on Alvin Kamara, and I'll do that in a second, but I kind of want to just go over real quickly. So before, obviously you guys know Mark Ingram is suspended for the first 4 weeks of the season. He was using a substance that's actually legal if you have like a doctor's note. I don't even know what it is, but like if you have permission to use it, but he didn't, so he's suspended. So he's gonna be out first 4 weeks, and they have a week 6 bye. So right off the bat, like I'm just telling you right now, don't draft Mark Ingram. I don't even care. Unless it's like the 12th round, maybe. But I guarantee you people are going to draft him like the 5th or 6th. I don't know yet when he's going to be going. I don't know when he'll go in this draft. But I personally won't draft him. If your league has an IR spot, he cannot go there. You cannot put a suspended player in the IR spot. So come week 7, when your team, you'll have 6 weeks being played. You'll have had him for one of them. Come week 7, you'll have had him for 1 week. It's just not worth it. It is not worth wasting a roster spot, especially leagues I'm in have like 5 roster spots on the bench. I cannot go that long with only 4 of my guys. I just can't do that. And we already know that they like Kamara. We already know Ingram's, I mean, I've never believed he's like that great. I thought he was a good value last year, but I've never thought like the talent of Ingram was like a guy that deserves being on your roster for that many weeks and getting you just 0. So that's my take on Mark Ingram. Don't draft him. But Kamara, I think he's being overvalued. Like I said, I don't remember exactly where he was going. I think it was in this like Kareem Hunt, Melvin Gordon, Dalvin Cook kind of range. So maybe like that beginning of the 2nd round, that's kind of where he was going. But he's launched up people's draft boards. And I have actually heard people say that he's in the conversation with guys like Zeke, Gurley, and Bell, and DJ. I think that's asinine. I don't think you could possibly put him into that same grouping. He's in the next grouping, but I don't think you could ever go into a draft and take him ahead of Zeke, Gurley, Bell, DJ. I don't think you could take him ahead of Antonio Brown, and then the conversation starts. But for me, it's not like his role is going to change that much. And if we look at what his role was last year, this is just on Pro Football Reference. Just literally type in Alvin Kamara stats. It's like the first one that pops up. It's the 14 touchdowns that everyone sees, and we know, you guys know, since we've said it a million times, touchdowns are random, touchdowns are not predictive, and he could have like a Mike Evans thing. You know, Mike Evans came into the league, had that year with 12 touchdowns, next year has like 3. And he's got 12, and he's got 3. It's like, even when you're a guy that's a huge red zone threat, football is such a fluky thing that you can project yardage, you can project touches and targets and carries. You cannot really project touchdowns that accurately. So pretending like we think he's going to get that same touchdown total, he could, certainly could. But do we know he's going to? No, and we shouldn't draft a guy that had 120 carries and think that because he's going to be without Ingram for 4 weeks that they're just going to give him the ball 25 carries. Probably not. He's probably going to be around 15 to 17 carries probably in those games without Ingram. And then when Ingram comes back, he's probably going to go still in that range, but more towards that 12 to 15 carries. Still going to be a guy that's going to be around 75 to 85 receptions, which is still awesome in PPR scoring. But I really don't think you can spend like the 6th and 7th overall pick, which is what he's going to be. He's going to be 6th or 7th overall, and there will be people in your home leagues that take him like 4th, 5th. And I don't think that's optimal at all. You know, we have like the advanced stats at Pro Football Focus. He was tied with Todd Gurley in overall ranking, and that's insane. Like, you guys know how good Todd Gurley was last year. Well, Alvin Kamara was just as good. Yards per carry after contact, 2nd in the league. And you look at the attempts. I mean, AP, Doug Martin, McKinnon, Jamal Williams, those guys had more carries than Alvin Kamara. So he was dominating on barely any carries, and we know he's going to get more. So that's great news for him. But if he gets 15 carries and 5 receptions a game as his like max, and he doesn't score a touchdown, he's not in the same conversation as a guy like David Johnson, who people are down on this year, but he had, what, a wrist injury in week 1, and he was cleared to play in January, but like they were tanking, so it like didn't matter. They weren't going to make playoffs or anything. Who has the same touchdown expectancy, if not more, probably more touchdown expectancy, and he's going to come with 25 carries a game and the same reception total. I don't see how that lines up. So likely will not have Alvin Kamara on any of my teams, but let's open this draft and see where he goes. This one's going to be standard. Although you see all the touchdowns, Kamara is a better play in PPR scoring just because he's going to get the 75 to 85 receptions. We know that's going to happen. Whereas some of these other great backs like a Leonard Fournette, you know he's not going to have that. Like, you know Leonard Fournette is not going to be even close, probably even half of the receptions that Kamara is going to have, and that's massive. So it's different in standard. Maybe he'll go a little bit later, but it was requested we do standard, and I do want to filter in standard draft. So we're changing up the roster settings to our normal settings. I don't know what it's at right now. Quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, the flex, 5 bench. Yeah, it's whatever I put it at when I did my last draft. No kickers, 5 bench spots. Everything else is normal. 1 quarterback league. Draft order, I wanted to put us at a spot that will have to make that decision. And I can't remember. We want, yeah, it's 13 rounds, 12 teams, 2 minutes a pick. Yeah, we want all that. And just exit here. And we're going to take, see here, I've been thinking about this, what spot I want to take. And I think for this to work out, maybe like 8. I think like the 8 pick. That's going to be right where Kamara is going to go. And I kind of want to like make that decision in this video for it to make sense. So we're going to take this spot. And I didn't actually talk about Sleeper Bot much. I like this. I just like the format. I like how you can change things, but the biggest thing, I like how you can invite people. Like, you know, on ESPN and other sites, it's kind of like a, hey, join this one. I can send out a link, people can join in, and then we can mock draft against the computer. I think that's really good. I don't know of other sites that you can do that in. Maybe you can, but I like that aspect of it. So, we're going to begin. Nothing else to change. So, starting off, Todd Gurley, Zeke, Bell, Antonio Brown, David Johnson. That's going to be your top 5. We're not going to get them at that spot. Of course, Alvin Kamara goes right ahead. We weren't going to draft Kamara, so I guess it doesn't matter. But I wanted to point out, even in a standard league, the dude's going 7th. So keep that in mind. We're on a countdown. So here are our options. At running back, we've got Kareem Hunt, Melvin Gordon, Dalvin Cook. That's basically, oh, and Barkley. I don't know why he's so low. So he's low, so maybe we won't get him at 17. Wide receivers, it'd be Hopkins. And that's basically it. So that's our option. DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not going to go Kareem Hunt. You guys know I don't really like Melvin Gordon. It would be Barkley. It would be literally Barkley for me. Barkley or Hopkins. But we're going to go Hopkins because I never draft Hopkins in these mock drafts. And I want to see how my team turns out if I take a wide receiver first. Because remember, running backs are significantly more important in a standard league. And I have no idea how we just got Barkley this late. That can't happen. I just did a mock draft on here, and he was going earlier than that, but it was in PPR, and we know that he's got a lot of PPR potential. Obviously, there's no news. I just wanted to see what their projection was for receptions. Oh, they just have a week 1 thing. Well, the obvious pick here has to be Barkley. I'm just looking at the wide receivers. Yeah, there's no way you don't draft Barkley here. But like I was saying, I want to see how the mock draft ends up if I take Hopkins early, and then I kind of have to go running backs after that because they're so much more valuable in a standard league. So I know our pick's coming up. We only have 120 seconds. Quickly, wide receivers in order after I took Hopkins was Odell, then Julio. I've seen Julio and Adams debated. I really think it's a toss-up between those two, but I would take Michael Thomas ahead of them anyways. Then A.J. Green, Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, and Doug Baldwin. That feels like a decent order. The next guys are Thielen, T.Y. Hilton, and Amari Cooper. I think Thielen's significantly ahead of those guys. So it would be Thielen if we were taking a wide receiver. We probably shouldn't. We've got McKinnon, who's better in PPR. Carlos Hyde, which I'm not taking this early, given all the running backs in Cleveland. I like Collins. I like Drake. And we're not going to reach on anyone else there. So that's our choice. We can take our second wide receiver and have Hopkins and Thielen, which is a great start in a PPR league. But for standard, we're probably going to get one of Collins or Drake at this next pick. So it's, do I want a chance to get both of them or take Thielen? But there are a lot of wide receivers that I'm fine with late. Not that I'm in love with, but that I'm fine with. So let's hold off. Thielen's not like a monster touchdown guy, so we don't need him in a standard scoring format. I really haven't decided yet if I want Alex Collins or Drake in these leagues. Let me know in the comments. Who do you guys like between Collins and Drake? Neither of them brought in someone that I'm scared of. And Drake was really good last year. We're going to draft Drake here. No. Yeah, we did get him. Okay, I thought it auto-drafted for us. We're going to draft Drake. I haven't made the call yet. They're right next to each other in my rankings. I don't know. Computer allows us to have both of them, so that's what we'll do. Gronk and Kelsey went in the 3rd round. Also, Rodgers and Watson did. That's been happening in every mock draft that I've done. I think those are awful picks for Rodgers and Watson. I'm actually going to be making a video as to why Rodgers and Watson are the worst picks in the draft. Like, those are the worst 2 picks you could possibly make this year. But I'll make a video on that, so you guys can wait for that video. But so now I like how we've started. We've got the elite target just monster in DeAndre Hopkins. And with the season everyone's projecting Watson to have, Hopkins is going to go off. So I'll make this bigger so we can see it for right now. So we've got Hopkins, we've got Barkley, Kenyon Drake, and Alex Collins. Let's be honest with ourselves. The likelihood that you hit on all 3 of your running backs, even how confident I feel in those guys, is minimal. So we're not secure at our running back spot. We still want to take chances, but I know that I can wait, and I know some of these guys are going to go earlier than they are right now. And we're starting to see a drop-off in wide receivers. I want to get the time up there. So I'm not pumped about Crabtree because I don't like drafting wide receivers who change teams. That also scares me for Watkins, although I know the upside of Watkins with Mahomes at quarterback. I really like Juju. I feel uncomfortable at my 2. I really like him at my 3, but I think he's a great pick. And then I see kind of a drop-off here. I like Will Fuller, but we don't have to go this deep. So our options are basically Watkins and Juju. Watkins and Juju, or we take another shot at running back. I'm not opposed to Marshawn Lynch this year. I think that that whole entire team is just messed up. I think they're going to be a disaster, but I think they're going to try and use Lynch as much as they can. And he was actually good last year. So I'm not opposed to that, but I really think I'm going to be taking some of the running backs coming up. And so I'd rather take the upside at wide receiver. And for me, it's Watkins. I know Juju's a really good wide receiver, but I think upside-wise, if you have Antonio Brown and Bell on that team for touchdowns, maybe Watkins has a little more upside. After me, it went Evan Ingram, then Jimmy Graham. I would have done Jimmy Graham first. Would have done Olsen first and probably Hunter Henry before Ingram. Not pumped on Ingram this year. I really, really like Kyle Rudolph. And we are in the 6th round. So you could take Rudolph here because that's kind of the drop-off. So that's an option. I always wait on tight end, but I'm fine taking Rudolph at this point. I could get Juju again. And I think I can wait. As you guys know, it's Sony Michel. It's Aaron Jones. It's Penny, Chubb, Royce Freeman. And then there's a big drop-off. So it's all those guys that I like at running back. I don't think we need to take 2 of them. I would like to get 2 of those guys in these next 2 rounds. But let's see what happens when we take Rudolph. Because I really like Rudolph this year because he had a lot less targets last season. And if you remember early in the year when they had Bradford actually healthy and they had Dalvin Cook healthy, this was like the offense you like onslaughted in DFS. I mean, this was when you could just go Bradford, Diggs, Thielen, Cook. Like you could just have all of them on the same team and they were just dominating. And now you bring in Kirk Cousins, who's really good quarterback. I think this offense is going to be fantastic yet again, and Kirk doesn't come with the same injury concerns that Bradford comes with. So I think Rudolph is a fantastic pick. That's the guy I'm targeting. I'm not targeting the Gronks, Kelce's, Ertz of the world. I'm targeting Rudolph because in the next round, we're taking like Reed and Eifert and Burton and Doyle, and I see a massive drop-off. So I think that's a good pick. We never, ever, under any circumstance, will be drafting a quarterback this early this season. Ever. Unless you're in a 2-quarterback league. Okay, I always need to say that. You got to get a good quarterback in a 2-quarterback league. But unless you're in a 2-quarterback league, you're not picking a quarterback this early. You're waiting. So now that's out of the way. I like Fuller, but I would shy away from drafting both Fuller and Hopkins on the same team. You can do it. Like you could draft 2 guys. You could draft Juju and Antonio Brown, stuff like that. But if you can avoid it, I would. I like Funchess. I like Marvin Jones. We know that Anderson's probably being suspended, so don't be drafting him if you're doing a draft right now. But let's look at the running backs we like. So we're gonna probably take. I would normally wait, but I don't want to make this too unrealistic. I really do think that some of these guys are going to be going a lot earlier. So instead of trying to make this like super unrealistic and waiting as long as possible to take some of these running backs, let's take who we would take if we had to. I think that's Rashad Penny. They view him as a 3-down back. I'm not sold on that yet, but they drafted him really high, and we know front offices like to be right. You get drafted high, they're going to do whatever they can possible to make it seem like that was a good pick. Whatever they can. So I like the Rashad Penny pick. The next guy we'd probably take is Royce Freeman. Royce Freeman, Sony Michel. Is this Sony or Sonny? Like, just tell me in the comment section. I think it's Sony Michel. more in a PPR league, we'd like go that way. Probably not in standard. I really like Aaron Jones and I really like Royce Freeman. So it's between those two. I think we're gonna go with Aaron Jones. I think that over this offseason he'll win that job. Jamal Williams was good last year. He helped me get third. I got third place in the money league. But I got third place in the money league and I had Todd Gurley. That's how much my team tanked in those weeks. But it was like fluke plays. It really was fluke plays that are not sustainable and were not indicative of how good he was in college. Like he was good, but it wasn't those types of plays that were making him good. So I think Aaron Jones wins that job. So let's take Aaron Jones. Let's hope that we get Royce Freeman. We're not going to, I don't think. But like you're not drafting Burkhead, Cohen, Mack, Crowell. You're not drafting the Jaguars ahead of this guy. Yeah, there is Royce Freeman. So that's what we're going to take next. Booker has had every opportunity to take this job. He's not a threat. Like, he's just not a threat. And we already know C.J. Anderson's gone. We already know, was it D'Angelo Henderson? Is that their other guy? He didn't do anything last year. People were kind of talking about him as like a deep sleeper. I think that was the guy. I hope I didn't muff that up. But Royce Freeman's good. He's really good. So I think he wins that job. We're taking him there. And we're pretty much set now at running back. And remember I said, it is so unbelievably important to hit on running back in a standard league that this is what you're forced to do. And again, standard league, Rudolph, he's a touchdown guy. That's why we targeted him. You're forced to take a ton of shots on these guys because really you only need like 2 or 3 to hit. But that's how you win. That is how you win the standard league, is having 3 elite running backs. Barkley, Drake, Collins, Penny, Jones, Freeman. I think we can get 3 of those guys to hit weekly. So that means technically we only have to start 2 of the wide receivers. Hopkins, Sammy Watkins. Am I super confident in Sammy Watkins? No. So this pick pretty much has to be a wide receiver. And we're looking for upside. As far as that, I think Shepard's good. Better in PPR. I don't think he has massive upside unless something like last season happens where he just gets hurt. 1 minute. We're not taking Anderson because remember I said he's probably being suspended. I think, at least that's what I've heard. I like Randall Cobb, again, better in PPR, but I do really like Randall Cobb this year with Rodgers coming back. I like Crowder, but he's much better in PPR. I like Meredith. I like Kenny Golladay. That's a good upside pick, but maybe a little bit more into the future for him. Rashard Matthews, but we're not taking any of them over these guys at the top. So for me, it's Randall Cobb and it's Cameron Meredith. I'm going to say Randall Cobb. I'm going to pick Randall Cobb here. I think he has more upside, but I would not fault anyone for taking Crowder, Aguilar, or Meredith at that spot. I think Randall Cobb's the pick. How many we got left? So last 2 rounds, your defense kicker. You notice I haven't touched this button right here, or this button right here that says quarterback, because I don't care. I do not care what that button says. I wish that one thing, if you happen to work for SleeperBot, could you put right here the round so I can like count what round I'm in? This is why we don't care, because I love Jameis Winston. He'll be on, I'm probably going to do that many teams this year, but he'll likely be on all of them. Love Jameis Winston, especially in my hometown league. It's a 5-point bonus for that 300 passing yards, and he's going to hit that a lot. We saw last season when he was finally healthy, he's going to throw the ball a lot, and he's going to get a lot of yards. I would draft Mahomes. I would draft Winston. I would draft Keenum. I would draft Trubisky. Lamar Jackson, if he wins the job, I would draft. I would draft Bortles. So I literally don't care which one of them I get. So until we're in those last 2 rounds, I'm not even looking at quarterback. It's so unimportant to be drafting Breeze in like the 5th round and Newton in the 6th. Like, the difference between these guys is not that great. So wide receiver, we need another one. We obviously don't draft backup tight ends. So we're back at this choice. I think Aguilar showed us a lot at the end of last season. he hurt a lot of people 2 years ago and 3 years ago, something like that. Not last season, but the year before, whatever that was, whatever you call that in your mind. He hurt a lot of people. People thought he was going to break out, but he was really good to end last season. So I think that would be the pick. Terrell Pryor is an option, though, now that I think of it. Because I am going for upside with this pick. We're going to go Terrell Pryor. That's what I think we're going to do. It's not a safe pick, but with all these running backs, if I hit on those guys, and I'm pretty confident DeAndre Hopkins is going to be good, I'm kind of taking upside with Watkins and with Pryor. They could bust, but I'm pretty sure Cobb's going to be fine. So if I had to every week start Hopkins and Cobb, or maybe I have to drop Pryor, and I can just pick up someone competent off waivers, because you can always find those guys that are just competent, I'm fine with that, given the likelihood I hit on at least one of these running backs. So now we're at quarterback. And look who's on the board. My favorite pick. Literally, I'm not even kidding. This is my favorite pick in the draft. Like, in the entire draft right now, best value is Jameis Winston. Nobody is talking about him. I've yet to hear anything talking about Jameis Winston, and you can get him so late. So, I don't get it, but I'll take it. And if this happens in my hometown league, I'm going to be pumped. So, we have to take... I don't think it forces you to take a defense here, but I'm just going to take one. If you're in your league, you're drafting before like the last week of the season, and it doesn't force you to take a defense, you guys all know you take a running back or a wide receiver, whichever one you like need on your bench. For me, this team, it would probably be a wide receiver. Take an upside guy. If it doesn't work out, you have to drop one person on your team to pick up a defense for that first week. You do it. But some sites, like I know my league, forces you to take your defense and your kicker. Well, we don't play with kickers, but if yours had a kicker, it forces you to take them. I'm not a big guy. I haven't looked at the first 4 weeks. I haven't looked at who plays like the easiest schedule. So that's usually who I target when I have to take them, is just who's taking like the turnover prone teams, you know, who's playing the Bills and the Jets. Like who plays them to open the year. It's possible that New England does, but I know that they play them late in the season. I know they play both those guys really late in the season, so I'm not sure if they play them right off the bat. Steelers have a decent defense. I'm not touching Seattle. I usually don't actually draft the Patriots defense because, I mean, they're not like that good. They're not. We finally got rid of our defensive coordinator. Thank God. He was awful. I keep drafting the Bears. The Packers are interesting with their 2 new corners. But I don't know why I keep drafting the Bears. Maybe I just like them. I don't know. But, oh yeah, and then it asks you, do you want to convert to a league? Don't do that. Just look at your team after and then exit the page. I wish it did show you like what Fantasy Pros does. It gives you that little, here's your team, here's your bench kind of thing. But we can visualize that. So we've got Winston at quarterback. Our starting wide receivers week 1 would be Hopkins and Watkins. And then on our bench would be Cobb and Pryor. So that would probably need some work. But maybe those guys hit. We don't know. Did I like limit the bench by 1 spot? I feel like that's not a big bench, but whatever. Barkley, Drake, Collins would be starting at running backs and flex. Then we've got Penny, Aaron Jones, Freeman. I really like that running back core. I feel as though probably not Jones unless they announce him starter, but probably Penny and Freeman will be going somewhere in this like 5th round range. That's kind of where I see them being at, in that like Lamar Miller, Tevin Coleman. I think that's the range they're going to be in. I don't think people are going to be drafting Mack and Crowell, especially once people actually start listening to podcasts and stuff and they hear Freeman, Penny, 1st round pick, high draft cap. They keep hearing those things. And they hear, oh, he could be a 3-down guy. He's going to start moving up. So probably won't be able to get that value. But I like this team. I think it's a solid team. I'll say if we were going back and looking at it again, maybe only taking 2 of Penny, Jones, and Freeman, and maybe getting a Marvin Jones, maybe getting a Funchess. Maybe if we haven't drafted Hopkins, taking a Fuller, just to get a little bit more depth at the wide receiver position. But like I'll say for one final time, wide receiver is semi-irrelevant in a standard league because of the value and because of a guy getting 9 for 90 isn't all that different than a guy getting 4 for 60. It's 3 points. And when a lot of the time there's like a 7-8 round difference between those two players, it's not that important. You just have to hit on running back. So that's the end of this one. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, how about you hit that like button, subscribe if you are new. Thanks for watching.